Welcome back to another episode of Jacket Sports Weekly. Going into our first segment, we're going to be talking about track and field as they had a lot of personal records broken within the David Larber Invitational, but also some national records as well. Then we go over to the diamond with baseball as we continue to see what they're going to be able to do and if they can get back into the winning column in their games leading up to this week. Then with the softball, we add the circle onto the field and we can see if they are going to be able to get into those playoff pushes and if that Geneva sweep is going to bite them in the end. Then we look over to our top 5 plays of March with Brayden King, and we end it all with our top 5 athletes of the week here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome to Jacket Sports Weekly, Waynesburg University's weekly sports show where we cover the best of the best in athletics. Our analysts discuss a multitude of highlight plays such as touchdown passes.
And Barber's going to throw again, one-on-one. Does he got it in him? That's a catch! Tyler Richmond with flags thrown everywhere makes the catch! Touchdown, Waynesburg!
And ones.
This was low, Waynesburg's going to get it! Suggs is going to pull away here, go for the layup, and it's going to fall in and one! P.J. Suggs!
And home runs.
Higgins drives one to left field. The left fielder running back, and that ball is out of here. Grace Higgins.
Join us every Wednesday to see what's new in Waynesburg University athletics.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. For our first segment today, we're going to get started off with some outdoor track and field. They were at the Dave Larber Invitational over this Easter weekend. So we're going to recap what we saw there and preview what we're going to see in the Westminster Invitational. Join with me on the desk, Ethan Spozarski for track and field. Ethan, thank you very much for joining us here today. For your first thing, walk me through all the different personal records that were able to happen in this past weekend. We saw a lot of different personal records and a lot of things that were able to stretch not only in Division III but also nationally as well. Walk me through what we saw from them.
Yeah, to start, let's look on the women's side. I think Natalie rightfully deserves the leadoff spot here in today's segment because she had a throw in her javelin, in her throw. She was able to launch a throw of 41.07 meters in a 41-woman event. That there led all D3 competitors at the meet. There were, again, D3 1 and 2 competitors as well. But it also landed her the 10th longest throw in the entire country, which is absolutely worth noting. That's a spectacular feat to start. We've talked about, all right, we know there's Jacob Parker, but there's other people to this team, and Natalie Double kind of supporting that and showing us that there with a fantastic throw this weekend as well. I think to note again, Jacob Parker did have another record-breaking throw for himself as he threw the second largest shot put throw in program history for himself. And he also placed 13th of a 56-man shot put, throwing his shot 14.80 meters. That was fantastic. He also competed in the weight throw, which he threw over 38 meters there as well. I think those were the two big ones to stand out. I think overall, we also know Gabrielle Chico, she placed 2 lifetime PRs for each shot put and discus, but more importantly, there were other people that continue to better themselves for these meets we've seen earlier on in the year, and that's what you really want to see as a team that's transitioning through their season.
When it goes down to all the other players, you said it best, is that, we're normally up here talking about Harker and Double and all these athletes that continue to better themselves throughout the season, but we also want to highlight those that continue to make themselves better. They might not be at the top of the leaderboards, but they're still making a difference when it comes down to those team events as well. This past weekend, it was not a team point event. It was just singles for competition, but this upcoming one with Westminster, it is a team point event. So for the women's side, we like to highlight Ella Rochelle and Miracle Hershey. They're leading the women on the track side of things, and they continue to just kind of stick out in their different areas. For the indoor side, Ella Rochelle was able to come in and put up some records towards the end of that indoor season. How are they going to be able to get that going into this outdoor season as well?
I think really for them is kind of what I've mentioned before, is building off a foundation you've kind of laid for yourself, because a lot of for track and field, your goal is, especially as an individual kind of sport, is, okay, I know where my goal is, where I want to go. Now, how can I get there? And on top of that is the motivation, is what we've seen is you got all these competitors outside of you. For the first handful of these meets, the first 5 meets that Waynesburg's competed in this year has had Division I, Division II, and Division III competition. It's not just PAC schools. So there's an extra bit of motivation to get over your goal. And everyone has a personal goal. Everyone knows, okay, this is what I did last week. How can I do better? And or here's my lifetime PR. How am I going to build off of there? And the continuous season really helps that. We've talked about it before that, I mean, when you train and practice August through June, That's a long time. That's a continuous time that 6 of the 7 days of the week, with majority of those weeks, you spending at least a couple hours in the gym, in the weight room, outside practicing, that's going to add up. So I think kind of just still knowing the motivation of what's going to get you to where you need to go, because it's a little different from a team sport to an individual sport.
Finding their ways around is what these athletes have been able to do best, and when it really comes down to it for the men's side as well, it's really on the throwing aspect. Liam Smith and Kyle Knowlton are right behind Jacob Parker. They continue to make waves, and they're getting those points also on the board for the Jackets. So for them, how do they just continue to support Harker in the background? Harker continues to make those impressive throws, beating his own records and making strides within Division III and national competition, but these guys are also behind him, maybe even encouraging him, but they're also making themselves well known as well. How do they just continue to support?
Well, I think the big thing is we know what Harker can do when his ability is. I mean, first meet of the year, he had fever the entire week leading up to the meet, and he still found a way to throw over 14 meters per shot. But for Liam and Kyle, I think the biggest thing is you're seeing the first couple meets in indoor, there really wasn't a lot of placement. Now we're getting outdoor, and they're breaking PRs, lifetime PRs from personal ones for themselves, and they're getting into places where they can compete and move on to get closer to competing in that final stage. Because you have a couple different stages, and then you get to the finals, and that's where you want to see it. And I think especially for Liam Smith, he's really good at the shot put, and Kyle's shown a lot of promise as well in discus too. And also for Kyle, he was able to get a PR in that first meet of the year and really kick off his outdoor season right. So I think seeing all that and kind of transitioning and kind of feeding into what we talked about before is, you know what you're capable of. Now going out and executing is a whole different thing. But a lot of these people, they're putting in the time and effort on top of a lot of these track and field athletes, I should mention. They're busy majors as well outside of it. There's a lot of nursing, criminal justice, like majors that require a lot of focus and attention inside the classroom, and they're doing both while competing outside. I think that's something else that doesn't get talked about a lot. It's very, very impressive for an athlete to be able to do, especially at the Division III level. So for me, I think as long as they're able to continue to focus on themselves and kind of motivate each other, because like we talked about, you have a lot of outside competition to help push, and they're really succeeding well. That success is definitely going to feed into that as well, what we've seen so far.
We've seen a lot of student athletes come and go, and these ones continue to show themselves excelling not only in the classroom, but also within their sporting realms. So Ethan, thank you very much for joining us here for track and field. We are going to see them participate again in Westminster Invitational this coming weekend on the 11th and the 12th. So make sure to look on WaynesburgSports.com for all of those results. Coming up next, we're going to have baseball up here to talk more on the diamond. Enter onto the diamond here on Jacket Sports Weekly. Joe Chirillo with you as usual. We're going to get into Waynesburg baseball as they haven't played in the past practically week, as their last game was against a hard opponent, and they were able to get in a lot of runs with 29 total against Pitt Greensburg. And now they go into an unknown schedule practically. They had Grove City scheduled for this past Thursday, then it got postponed to Saturday. Then from Saturday to Sunday, then from Sunday to Monday, then from Monday to Saturday, then from Saturday back to Monday. And don't worry, it gets better. It wasn't then on Monday. It is now to this coming Thursday. So they have not played in a long time. They had a lot of variables going in and out of this Easter weekend. Mia Henkins joins us up on the desk to talk more about this baseball team. Who are the standouts for this team after having, practically a week off, 29 runs brought in? It's great for them. But who are those standouts going into these next 2 weeks of play that's very important for them leading into the PAC playoffs?
Yeah, after that Pitt Greensburg game, we're looking at Luke Buckner, a freshman. He scored his first collegiate home run last week against Pitt Greensburg, the first one of the year. Hunter Hamilton had one inside the park, but the first actual dinger as some people say, for the Waynesburg baseball team this year. So definitely Luke Buckner. Caden Flambard currently leads the NCAA in sacrifice bunts with 8, and then Noah Gabriel, the second baseman, is second in the PAC in sac bunts with 6. So I think those 3 are really the standouts right now for Waynesburg. And like you said, that Pitt Greensburg team really helped them kind of get a win under their belt and kind of boosted their confidence a little bit, I think. And with that Grove City game being moved around a lot, I think that's something that they needed for going into this game.
And especially for that Easter break, they need that time to, go back, see the families, hang out, get a little bit cooled down, and be able to reset themselves, as these next 2 weeks are going to be very important for them if they want to make a playoff push. They have teams like Bethany, St. Vincent, Grove City, Westminster all coming up. They also are losing, though, however, Trent Jarafa, who broke his wrist, unfortunately. Most likely is going to be out for the remainder of the season. Not sure yet. Haven't really gotten the word from him, but most likely going to see him out for the remainder of the season. But moving into it, they got Grove City coming up on Thursday. They have Bethany tomorrow, St. Vincent after that. Some hard opponents that they're going to be facing. What do they need to do? What do they need to change to really make this an opportunity for them to capture?
I'm going to sound like a broken record because last week I kind of talked about the same stuff with baseball because not much has changed. However, hitting is the main thing we need to focus on right now. I mean, as far as pitching goes, I mentioned it last week again, we don't really have a standout pitcher at the moment. We had Gavin Pratt. He has now left the team. So looking towards people like Ethan Earhart, Zach Scabelli had a really good game last week against Pitt Greensburg, as well as Dalton Lucy. Some people that do need to step up and pitch well, that's definitely going to be a factor, but I think hitting is what we really need to focus on. Currently, our top batter in the PAC lineups right now is Hunter Hamilton at 55. 55 in the PAC is our first batter, and he's also leading the PAC in strikeouts as well. So kind of a rough ratio there for Hunter Hamilton. However, really stepping it up on the hitting side is what we need to look at. Looking at Grove City, they have Colin Marin Petro. He's second in the PAC in batting with a .462 average. He's second in hits with 36 and second in runs with 26. So they are very good at hitting. And Waynesburg, like I said, isn't. They're currently last in batting in the PAC. Grove City is 11th in pitching, however, where Waynesburg is 7th. So that is something that I think they can focus on with Grove City. But without getting the bat on the ball, there's really nothing you can do.
And especially for this Bethany game, the Grove City is going to be a hard one to beat. And with softball, they already split with them 1-1. That would be a hope for baseball if they could at least just split. I doubt a sweep for them is going to be feasible. However, looking into potentially just a split there would be a really nice win for them, especially after they're going to be playing Bethany tomorrow. 2 games there. So that's at least 2 starting pitchers and then potentially 4, 5, maybe even 7 total pitchers that you're going to be losing going into that next game against Grove City. And for those, you're going to really need to be pulling out of the bullpen. So hopefully they can get a win of some sorts throughout these next 4 games for them. But when it comes down to their game tomorrow against Bethany, what's the most important factor going into it? Is it that rivalry that's kind of brewing? We always say the Dub J's the rival, but it's more Bethany, especially after the incident that happened about 2 years ago with the Bethany and Waitsburg team. Just kind of, what does this game mean for them coming in tomorrow?
I think, honestly, just keeping a good mindset going into Bethany is really important. Obviously, like we said, Bethany and Waynesburg always kind of have that sort of rivalry, depending on whatever sport it is. We see it in basketball, we see it in football as well. But I think Waynesburg baseball takes it very personally because they also bring that to student sections as well with Bethany games. We always see some sort of fight when it comes to a Bethany team and the Waynesburg baseball team. So I think just keeping their head straight, honestly, is what's going to help them. They can play as good as they want to, but if they're too focused in on that rivalry and they're too focused on, just outshowing Bethany rather than just outplaying them, I think that's going to be a big factor for them. And I think they can beat Bethany, but again, letting that rivalry get into your head is definitely going to be a benefactor when it comes to Waynesburg getting a win.
Practically going in with a fresh slate. Could see Ethan Earhart dealing out on the mound. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Mia, thank you very much for joining us here on Jacket Sports Weekly. Coming up is softball as we take out the mound, put in the circle instead. Coming up here on JS Dub. To the diamond for a second time. Instead of the mound, though, we're bringing in the circle and Brett Gombita up to join us here to talk about softball. Joe Chirillo with you as you had for this entire episode thus far. Let's get into it. For softball, they lost both games to Geneva this past Tuesday. Just things weren't looking great for them. But Presley Meadows did pitch an entire first game, and she's kind of been getting up there now as solidifying herself being that number 2 pitcher behind Autumn Stemple. Brett, kind of break it down for me on what she's been able to do, not only in the season and what she can do going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, Presley Meadows returns, the sophomore. She's been one of the top pitchers this season. We saw her a lot in Myrtle Beach. We've seen her a lot so far this season. She's kind of split time as both a starter and a reliever. She starts this game against Geneva, almost goes the distance, just can't pick up those final few outs, ends up letting Geneva tie the game, and they walk it off. But until that point, she pitched great. She threw over 100 pitches in the game, and overall, I'd say pitching on the day against Geneva was one of the strong suits. You know, they only allowed 3 runs in game 2, but it was just those bats that couldn't get going as they got shut out once again. But overall, it was a strong showing from Meadows and the pitching staff.
I was able to be at that game for Geneva, and Meadows was warming up to potentially come into the second game as well. So a strong outing for her could have been, but unfortunately we didn't see her in that second game. They are 1-3 in their past 4, currently playing Franciscan as well. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But with this double loss to Geneva, is this eventually going to bite them in the end when it comes down to those PAC championships? Geneva's one of those top contending teams. I think it would have been a better ideal if they at least split them between the two. Now with that double loss, is that going to hurt them in the end?
It could. Well, they split with Grove City. They split with Washington and Jefferson. I think those two right there are kind of covering them for the sweep against Geneva, or the fact that they were swept. Obviously, they swept Allegheny. It would be great if they could go on a little run here in these next 5 days and, you know, maybe sweep Franciscan, sweep Chatham, take 1, maybe 2 from Bethany. But it could bite them in the end. There's still a lot of conference games left to be played, so, and you never know what the other teams can do as well. Geneva could go on a crazy losing streak. So I'd say right now it's not the biggest worry, but it could come back in the end.
One thing that a lot of the team members have told us is that they keep playing down to their opponent. And one of the things right now that we keep seeing in the current game that's going on right now, it's 0-0, top of the second against Franciscan as of recording. Seems like they're kind of playing down to their opponent with Franciscan. Mesa Heitman, normally been in second base, is now in left field. Seppi in right field, and then Bryn Charneski getting a start, I believe, for the first time this season, now at second base as well.
First time in conference.
Yeah, so kind of walk me through what these changes might mean, if this is because of that sweep from Geneva, if this is just changes they're looking to see, or if they are just playing down to their opponent with Franciscan.
I'd say it's more of just you're looking for a spark. Like, we know the kind of bat that Mesa swings. She's been swinging a hot bat, so you move her into left and you provide a new opportunity for a player like Charneski at second base. And we'll see. I assume in this second game, of course, you guys will know before me because the episode will be out, but I assume we'll go back to a more regular lineup. Right now we're seeing Cicero, DeMarc not in that lineup, but it could be just saving them for that second game of the doubleheader. Franciscan, one of the bottom teams in the conference, so you could make the argument that it's playing down to the competition, but I think now that you've lost 3 of your last 4, you're kind of searching for something, and that's what Brunson is doing by moving Heitman into the outfield and then bringing in Charneski and bringing in Seppi and right.
We've seen a lot of other players also lose those positions, having Bryn Charneski come in, now having Cicero and DeMarc out of the lineup. Cicero normally playing in left field and DeMarc normally playing in that designated player position. She's been one to kind of rely on the bats with. In Geneva, their bats just were cold as ever, especially in that second game. A lot of them were either pop flies or ground outs. How can they get that spark back a little bit more, whether it's kind of looking back at Myrtle and how they were able to get those bats rolling in those games, or if it's just building that confidence in them now in the moment that they're in?
I think this is going to sound kind of stupid, but I think one person just needs to make that play, and they kind of like feed off each other. So once that first player gets that first big hit, the rest of the lineup starts to kind of rally around. We saw them have some really big innings back in Myrtle. They had a couple comeback wins, and we've seen that even here with UPG in a non-conference game. They put up a bunch of runs in the bottom of the 7th and came back and won. I think it kind of starts with whoever's leading off that inning. If you get your leadoff runner aboard, the rest of your lineup starts to continue and follow through, and you can put some runs up. So I just I think you got to rely on that first player to make that first spark.
Yellow Jackets are making a run when it comes down to the PAC championship in these next 5 days, practically playing against Bethany, Chatham, currently Franciscan. It's going to be a lot to look at. Brett, thank you very much for joining us here. When we come back, we're going to be going over to the top 5 plays of March here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. I'm Brayden King. They say April showers may bring May flowers, but in the month of March, Waynesburg was hot. Here are the top 5 plays of the month of March. At number 5, Riley Robick hits a single to center field. As you take a look at this first pitch to her, and then she sends it straight up the middle, and a throwing error by Pitt Greensburg would score Braylee Corbin and Mesa Heitman en route to a 5-4 comeback win over the Bobcats. Waynesburg trailed 4-1 going into the bottom of that 7th inning, by the way. Luke Buckner at number 4 hits one deep for his first home run of the season. Waynesburg would pick up a 17-0 win against, funny enough, Pitt Greensburg again. At number 3, Jamie Kelly and Braylee Corbin hit back-to-back home runs in a 6-2 win over WNJ. A rivalry game. First one, Jamie Kelly, a 2-run homer to give Waynesburg the 3-2 lead. And then after that, the icing on the cake from Braylee Corbin right here on this first pitch, lining this one over the center field wall. Another 2-run homer for Waynesburg. They'd end up winning 6-2. At number 2, Jose Lopez Jr. swings at the first pitch that he sees and gets a walk-off single in a 6-5 win over Franciscan. A big win for the Yellow Jackets on that day. At number 1, Braylee Corbin ties a program record with 3 home runs in a massive 9-1 victory over Mount Aloysius College. There's the second dinger over the right field wall. So she hit one over the left field wall, then the right field wall, and then one more after that to tie a program record 3 home runs in a game for Braylee Corbin. That will do it for your top 5 plays of March. Coming up next, Joe Chirillo will give out his top 5 athletes of the week. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome into Top 5 Athletes of the Week here. Your host, Joe Chirillo, for the entire episode, but then also going to be selecting your Top 5 Athletes of the Week of my opinion, of course. So go to WaynesburgSports.com if you maybe want to fight against what I say. I'm perfectly okay with that. You can leave that in the comments below. I don't care. Going in at number 5, I don't go with an athlete. I'm going with an entire team. We're going with the baseball team just in general, having 25 total runs in their last 10 games leading up to their game against Pitt Greensburg. And then after the doubleheader against Pitt Greensburg, had 29 total runs scored. That's just an amazing job for them after their bats have been slow practically this entire season, after especially their trip down to Florida. In this case, that's a strong potential on what we could see for them in the remainder of their season. So that's why they earn my number 5 spot. Going into the number 4 spot, we go to another baseball player, in particular, Caden Flambard, as he still continues to lead the President's Athletic Conference in bunts with 8 total. Behind him in second place, though, is another Yellow Jacket of Noah Gabriel, the second baseman, with 6 total. But he also continues to lead in the fielding categories as well. He's one of the number 1 players within the pack that is getting those outs over to Giraffa as well, which leads Giraffa to be the number 1 fielder within the conference. But for Flambard, he's second in assists with fielding in 62 total, and that earns him our number 4 spot. Going at the number 3, Natalie Double with her third place throw of 41.07 meters in javelin through a 41 women event, but she did lead all D3 competitors, and it is the 10th longest throw in the country of outdoor track and field competition this entire season. So congratulations to Double on all of those achievements she's been able to do, and that's just from this past week. We'll see what she can do in the Westminster Invitational coming up. At number 2, Mesa Heitman is a 2-time Waynesburg Women's Player of the Week and is a PAC Hitter of the Week after last week's opening. In the past 4 games, she had a .564 average, going 10 for 24 at the plate. Continues to show her dominance in the hitting category, but also at second base continues to show her dominance there, being able to get those quick 4-3 outs. And at number 1, it's of course Jacob Harker. He leads all PAC competitors with a 14.80 meter throw after the David Larber Invitational this past weekend. He was 13th of the 56 lineup, which had D1 and D2 competitors as well. And in discus, he threw a 38.20 meter throw as well. So for Jacob Parker, he continues to be at the top of my list as the number 1 athlete of the week here on Jacket Sports Weekly. When we come back next week, we're going to have a whole different lineup of sports to talk about and then continue with your athletes of the week. We thank you very much for tuning in here on Jacket Sports Weekly. Tune in next week.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.